Om Namo Narayana. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana. Pratham Skandha. Athadvitiyodhyayah. Book 1. Discourse 2. Glory of the Lord's narrative and of devotion to Him. Vyasa says, Ugrashrava, the son of Romaharshana, was transported with joy to hear this question of the holy Brahmanas. He welcomed their words and commenced his discourse. Suta said, when the sage Dvaipayana or Vedavyas, literally the one who was born in an island, saw his son Shukadeva going away all alone with the intention of leading the life of a recluse, even though he had not yet been invested with the sacred thread and had, therefore, had no occasion to perform any secular or religious duties. He was agitated at the thought of separation from him and called out, "Hello, my son." At that time, it was the trees on the roadside that responded on his behalf, filled as they were by his presence. I bow to that sage Shukadeva, who being one with the universal spirit, has access to the hearts of all. Srimad Bhagavata is a mysterious Purana. It possesses a glory of its own and constitutes the very essence of all the Vedas. It is a unique light illuminating the spiritual realities for those worldly men who seek to go beyond the darkness of ignorance. It was out of compassion for such men that this teacher of sages, Shukadeva, uttered this Purana. I take refuge in that son of Vyasa. After bowing to the divine sages Narayana and Nara, the Supreme Person Sri Krishna, Goddess Saraswati, the Goddess of Speech, and the sage Vyasa, one should then recite Srimad Bhagavata, which enables one to conquer the cycle of birth and death, as well as all the aberrations of the mind. Sages, you have done well in asking me a question which is conducive to the welfare of the world, for your enquiry relates to Sri Krishna, a topic which completely purifies the heart. That alone is the highest duty of men, from which follows devotion to Sri Krishna, a devotion which is absolutely motiveless and knows no obstruction, and as a result of which the soul realizes the all-blissful God and thus attains its object. Contact established with Bhagavan Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, through devotion speedily awakens dispassion and immediate knowledge. A duty well performed is but labor lost if it fails to generate love for the stories of Bhagavan Vishwaksena, Sri Krishna. Riches cannot be the end of dharma or virtue, which culminates in absolution or final beatitude. Even so, wealth is a means of earning religious merit. Sensuous enjoyment has not been recognized as its consummation. Again, gratification of the senses is not the end of sensuous enjoyment. Keeping the body and soul together is the only use of sensuous enjoyment. And inquiry into truth is the object of keeping the body and soul together, and not the attainment of heaven, etc., through the performance of pious acts. The knowers of truth declare knowledge alone as the reality, that knowledge which does not admit of duality, the distinction of subject and object. In other words, which is indivisible and one without a second, and which is called by different names such as Brahma, the Absolute, the Paramatma, the Supreme Spirit or Oversoul, and Bhagavan, the deity. Sages who are full of faith perceive that truth as their own self in their own heart through devotion, coupled with knowledge and dispassion, and acquired through hearing of Srimad Bhagavata, etc. Therefore, O noblest of Brahmanas, the consummation of duties efficiently performed by men according to their respective varna, the grade in society, and ashrama, stage in life, lies in securing the pleasure of Sri Hari. Hence, with undivided mind, one should ever hear and sing the praises of, meditate upon, and worship the Lord, who is the protector of his devotees. The learned, who are armed with the sword of constant meditation on him, cut asunder the hard knot of karma therewith. Who, then, would not take delight in his stories? By resorting to holy places of pilgrimage, O Brahmanas, one obtains the privilege of waiting on exalted souls and thereby successively develops a desire for hearing the stories of Bhagavan Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, faith in and a relish for such stories. Sri Krishna is a disinterested friend of the virtuous, and his praises sanctify those who listen to or sing them. He abides in the heart of those who hear his stories and uproots the evil propensities of their mind. When the evil propensities are well nigh eradicated through the constant service of his devotees or the day-to-day study of Srimad Bhagavata, there wells up abiding devotion to the Lord of excellent fame. The mind is then freed from passions such as lust and greed, which have their root in Rajas and Tamas, and established in Sattva attains purity. In this way, when one is rid of all worldly attachment through loving devotion to the Lord, and the mind is filled with delight, one realizes the truth relating to God as a matter of course. The moment a man sees God as his very self, the knot of ignorance in his heart is broken asunder, all his doubts are dispersed, and the entire stock of his karma gets liquidated. That is why, with utmost delight, the wise constantly practice devotion to Lord Vasudeva, which purifies the soul. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are the three attributes or modes of Prakriti, or the primordial matter. Assuming these for preservation, creation, and destruction of this universe, the one Supreme Person severally bears the names of Hari, Vishnu, Virinchi, Brahma, and Hara, Shiva. Yet, the supreme good of men flows from Sri Hari alone, whose body consists of pure sattva. Just as smoke is higher, more active than wood, which is an earthly substance, and hence inert and dull, and higher than smoke is fire, which is associated with many sacrificial acts recommended in the three Vedas. Even so, Rajas, the principle of motion or activity, is superior to Tamas, which is darkness or inertia. And even higher than Rajas is Sattva, the principle of light or knowledge, with the help of which one is able to realize God. Of yore, sages worshipped for their salvation Bhagavan Vishnu alone, who is pure Sattva personified. Even now, those who follow in their footsteps likewise get qualified for blessedness. Those seeking liberation worship Bhagavan Narayana and his part manifestations, all of whom are so gentle in aspect, leaving alone the lords of evil spirits, Bhairava, and others who possess a terrible form, though not reviling them. Those, however, who possesses a Rajasika or a Tamasika disposition and are seekers of wealth, power, and progeny, worship the mains, evil spirits, and the lords of created beings, possessing as they do a character similar to theirs. The Vedas ultimately treat of Bhagavan Vasudeva. The sacrifices themselves aim at the attainment of Vasudeva. The various yogas eventually lead to Vasudeva, and all sorts of rituals too have their end in Vasudeva. All wisdom has its culmination in Vasudeva. All austere penance has Vasudeva for its goal. All virtue aims at the realization of Vasudeva, and all destinies culminate in Vasudeva. Although the Lord is himself beyond Prakriti or the primordial matter and its three modes, which are Sattva, etc., yet it was he who evolved this universe at the beginning of creation through his own Maya, Prakriti, which consists of the aforesaid three gunas and is both real in its phenomenal aspect and unreal, ontologically speaking. Having entered into these three gunas that have been evolved by the aforesaid Maya, he appears as possessed of three gunas, though essentially he is consciousness personified, just as fire, though really one, appears as many when abiding in the different logs of wood that manifest it, so does God, the soul of the universe, though essentially one, appear as many when manifested in different beings. Entering as the soul, the various material bodies created by himself out of the various evolutes of the three gunas, such as the subtle elements, the senses, and the mind, the Lord enjoys the sense objects appropriate to such bodies. It is He, again, who creates the different worlds, and descending by way of sport in different species, such as gods, the human beings, and the lower forms of life, protects all the beings through his sattva or goodness. Thus ends the second discourse, forming part of the story relating to the Naimisha forest in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavad Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.